Have you ever looked at an old photograph of yourself and quietly wondered, what happened to me? Not because your hair turned gray, not because of a few wrinkles, but because something felt different. The spark in your eyes, the calmness in your face, the quiet confidence that once seemed effortless. Some people blame age, others blame stress. But what if the real reason has nothing to do with getting older? What if every single day, small invisible habits have been slowly changing the way the world sees you? Not overnight, not dramatically, but little by little, until one day, the person staring back from the mirror looks exhausted, even after a full night's sleep, looks older than their actual age, looks heavier, even without gaining weight, looks disconnected, without understanding why. The Stoics believed that the body is often the messenger of the mind. Long before modern psychology, Marcus Aurelius observed that a person's character is eventually written across their face, not because life is unfair, but because every repeated thought, every repeated emotion, every repeated habit leaves a mark. Today, we're going to explore 10 silent habits that quietly steal your presence, your confidence, and even your appearance. Some of these habits may already be part of your daily life. Others may surprise you, but if you stay until the end, you'll discover something remarkable. Looking younger isn't always about your skin. Sometimes it's about your mind. Let's begin. Habit 1: living every day in survival mode. Most people don't wake up each morning. They react to it. The alarm rings. They grab their phone. Emails, news, messages, deadlines. Within minutes, their mind is already racing. Without realizing it, they've entered survival mode. Again and again, day after day. Your body cannot tell the difference between running from a wild animal and constantly worrying about tomorrow. To your nervous system, stress is stress. When cortisol stays elevated, your face changes, your jaw becomes tighter, your forehead remains tense, your shoulders slowly collapse forward, your breathing becomes shallow, even your eyes begin to lose their natural brightness. People often assume they simply look tired, but tiredness isn't always caused by lack of sleep. Sometimes it's caused by a life that never truly pauses. Seneca warned that many people are not living, they are merely being carried from one worry to the next. Look around. How many people do you know who are physically present, yet mentally somewhere else? They're eating while checking emails, walking while thinking about work, talking while worrying about tomorrow. Their body is here, their mind is everywhere else. Over time, this constant internal pressure becomes visible, not because they're weak, but because the human body was never designed to remain in a permanent state of alert. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." At first, those words sound simple, but think about them. If your thoughts are constantly controlled by things you cannot change, how much peace are you really allowing yourself to experience? Peace isn't just an emotion, it's something your face remembers, your posture remembers, even your voice remembers. Have you ever met someone who immediately made you feel calm without saying very much? It wasn't because they looked perfect, it was because they carried an inner stillness. That stillness cannot be purchased, it cannot be faked. It comes from learning to slow the mind, one breath at a time, one decision at a time, one moment at a time. The Stoics practiced this daily, not because they wanted easier lives, but because they understood that a peaceful mind creates a powerful presence, and perhaps that presence is the most attractive quality any person can possess. But stress is only the beginning. There is another habit that quietly changes your appearance, even faster. Most people do it before they even get out of bed. Think about your mornings, before your feet touch the floor, before you open the curtains, before you take your first deep breath. What is the very first thing you look at? For millions of people, the answer is simple: a phone, a glowing screen, filled with notifications, messages, headlines, social media, problems that don't belong to today, yet somehow have already entered your mind. The Stoics believed that the first moments of each morning shape the direction of the entire day. Marcus Aurelius didn't begin his mornings by asking what the world expected from him. He asked what kind of man he wanted to become. There's a profound difference. One approach gives your attention away. The other protects it. Modern technology isn't the enemy, but unconscious habits can quietly become one. When your brain is flooded with information, within the first few minutes of waking, your nervous system never gets the chance to wake naturally. Instead, it jumps straight into reaction mode. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your mind begins comparing, planning, worrying, reacting, and before breakfast, you've already spent precious energy on things you cannot control. Now ask yourself, how many mornings have begun this way? How many peaceful sunrises have you traded for endless scrolling? The tragedy isn't the screen itself, it's what the screen replaces. Silence, reflection, gratitude, a quiet conversation with your own thoughts. Those moments once belonged to you. Now, they often belong to algorithms. Epictetus taught that whoever controls your attention controls your life. Those words may be more relevant today than ever before, because attention isn't just where you look, it's where your life goes. Every morning, you make an invisible decision. Will you begin the day from a place of intention or from a place of reaction? That single choice, repeated hundreds of times, quietly shapes your face, your posture, your mood, and even the energy people feel when they meet you. Imagine two different mornings. The first begins with endless notifications. The second begins with 5 minutes of silence. The same person, the same life. But over the course of a year, those mornings create two completely different versions of the same human being. The Stoics understood that greatness rarely comes from dramatic moments. It grows through ordinary choices, made consistently. Perhaps your morning is one of those choices. Have you ever met someone who always seems tired, even when they're smiling? Not physically tired, emotionally tired. Their shoulders seem heavier. Their eyes carry a quiet sadness. Their face appears older than their years. Sometimes, this isn't caused by age. It's caused by the weight of thoughts they've carried for far too long. Negativity isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's silent. It's the habit of expecting disappointment before anything has even happened. It's assuming people will let you down, believing nothing ever works out, replaying old arguments long after they've ended, holding on to resentment because letting go feels impossible. At first, these thoughts seem harmless. They're invisible. No one else can hear them. But your body can. Your nervous system can. Your face can. Modern science tells us that chronic negative thinking keeps the body in a prolonged state of stress. The Stoics understood this. Without laboratories, Seneca warned that we often suffer far more in imagination than in reality. Think about those words. How many sleepless nights were caused not by what actually happened, but by what might happen? How many wrinkles have been carved by worries that never came true? The mind cannot endlessly hold tension without the body eventually reflecting it. This is why some people seem to grow older much faster than others, not because time moved differently, but because their thoughts did. Marcus Aurelius practiced a quiet discipline. Whenever something disturbed him, he asked himself, "Is this within my control?" If the answer was no, he refused to surrender his peace, not because he lacked emotion, because he valued clarity more than unnecessary suffering. Imagine how different your face might look if your mind stopped carrying yesterday's anger into today's sunrise. How different your posture might become if you finally released the burdens that were never yours to keep. Your appearance isn't only shaped by the years you've lived, it's shaped by the thoughts you choose to repeat. And that leads us to another habit, one so common that most people mistake it for normal life, yet it silently drains your energy, your confidence, and your presence every single day. Most people believe that resting means sleeping, but those are not the same thing. You can sleep for 8 hours and still wake up exhausted because your body may have rested, but your mind never did. Think about the last time you truly felt peaceful, not distracted, not entertained, peaceful. For many people, that moment is difficult to remember. Even during moments of silence, the mind refuses to stop talking. It replays old conversations, imagines future problems, creates imaginary arguments, searches for things to fear. The body lies still, but the mind keeps running. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that a restless mind creates unnecessary suffering, not because life is difficult, but because we continue carrying what yesterday has already finished. Modern research tells us that chronic mental fatigue shows itself in the face: dark circles, dull skin, tense muscles, a tired expression that no amount of expensive skincare can completely hide. People often spend thousands trying to improve their appearance. Very few spend 10 minutes learning how to quiet their thoughts. The Stoics understood that stillness is not laziness, it's maintenance. Just as a sword must occasionally be placed back into its sheath, the human mind must also be given moments to recover. Not scrolling, not working, not consuming, simply being. Imagine spending just 10 quiet minutes each evening, without your phone, without television, without noise, only your thoughts, only your breathing. It sounds simple, yet for many people, it's one of the hardest things they could possibly do, because silence forces us to meet ourselves, and many spend their entire lives trying to avoid that meeting. But here's the truth: every moment of intentional stillness softens the tension that your face has been carrying for years. Not immediately, but gradually, quietly, almost invisibly, just like the habits that created it. Have you noticed How everyone seems to be in a hurry, driving faster, walking faster, eating faster, talking faster, thinking faster, always chasing the next task, the next achievement, the next destination, as if life is happening somewhere else. The Stoics believed that the greatest tragedy wasn't death, it was reaching the end of life without ever truly living it. Seneca wrote, "Life is long enough if you know how to use it." Most people hear those words and think about time, but perhaps he was really talking about attention, because time only has value when you're actually present for it. Think about yesterday. How much of it do you truly remember? Not because it wasn't important, but because your mind was already living tomorrow. When we constantly rush, our body pays the price. Our breathing becomes shallow. Our muscles remain tight. Our posture slowly changes. Even our facial expressions begin reflecting permanent urgency. Without realizing it, we wear stress like another layer of clothing. Have you ever seen someone who seems peaceful, even in the middle of chaos? They don't move slowly. They simply move with intention. That quiet presence is impossible to fake because it comes from someone who is no longer racing against life. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He carried responsibilities greater than most of us could ever imagine. Yet throughout his writings, he repeatedly returned to one simple practice: stay with the present moment, because this moment is the only place where life actually exists. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, only here, only now. And perhaps that's why some older people seem to become more beautiful with age, not because time was kinder to them, but because they stopped fighting it. They accepted life. They slowed down. They smiled more. They worried less. And over the years, their face became a reflection of inner peace. Maybe that has always been the secret. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you something. Out of the 5 habits we've explored so far, which one feels the most familiar? Don't think too much. Just be honest. Leave the number or the name of the habit in the comments below. Sometimes, the moment we recognize a habit is the moment we begin changing it. And if these timeless lessons have given you something to reflect on, consider giving this video a like. Not because numbers matter, but because every like helps these ideas reach someone who may need them just as much as you do. Now, let's continue. The next habit is one that almost everyone believes is completely harmless. In fact, modern society often celebrates it. Yet according to Stoic wisdom, it slowly steals something far more valuable than your appearance. It steals your identity. There is a habit that quietly changes a person's face without them ever noticing. It begins with a simple question: what will people think? At first, it seems harmless. You choose your words carefully. You avoid disagreement. You smile, even when you're exhausted. You apologize for things that don't require an apology. Little by little, your life stops reflecting who you truly are. Instead, it becomes a performance, performed for strangers, performed for coworkers, performed for family, performed for people whose opinions will be forgotten within a few days. The Stoics understood that seeking approval is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. Epictetus once said, "Asterisk, if you want to improve, Be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Asterisk. Think about that. How much of your stress comes from trying to manage someone else's opinion? The truth is, you cannot. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how successful you become, someone will criticize you. No matter how much you sacrifice, someone will still believe it wasn't enough. So why spend your life trying to satisfy people who have already decided how they want to see you? Every day, thousands of people wear invisible masks, not because they enjoy pretending, because they're afraid. Afraid of rejection, afraid of judgment, afraid of not being accepted. But fear always leaves traces: a forced smile, a tense jaw, restless eyes, a nervous voice. Your appearance begins revealing the pressure you're trying to hide. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, asterisk, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the subject. Asterisk. Perhaps the opinion you've been fearing was never worth carrying in the first place. Real confidence isn't built when everyone approves of you. It's built when you remain yourself, even when they don't. And strangely, that's when people begin respecting you the most. Imagine waking up every morning, already expecting something to go wrong. The weather, traffic, politics, money, work, family. There always seems to be something waiting to steal your peace. Complaining feels natural, almost automatic. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because every complaint teaches your mind to search for more problems. The Stoics believed your attention is like a garden. Whatever you water will grow. If you water resentment, resentment grows. If you water gratitude, gratitude grows. Every complaint is a seed. Plant enough of them, and eventually, your entire outlook begins to change. People notice it, not because of what you say, because of how you carry yourself. Negativity has weight. You can hear it in someone's voice. You can see it in the way they walk. You can even recognize it before they speak. Seneca once wrote, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Think about that. How many conversations begin with complaints? How many evenings end with frustration instead of appreciation? The habit becomes invisible until one day, your face no longer reflects curiosity. It reflects exhaustion, not from life, but from resistance to life. Now imagine another person. Their life isn't easier. They face the same bills, the same disappointments, the same uncertainty. But instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can this teach me?" That single question changes everything, because the mind stops looking for victims and starts looking for solutions. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every single day. Whenever life became difficult, he reminded himself that obstacles are not interruptions. They are the path. The obstacle becomes the teacher. The hardship becomes the training. The challenge becomes the opportunity. That mindset doesn't just transform your character. Over time, it transforms your appearance. People begin noticing something different, not because your face changed overnight, because your energy did, your presence did, your outlook did, and those things are impossible to fake. But perhaps None of these habits are as destructive as the next one, because this habit doesn't just steal your peace, it quietly steals your purpose. And without purpose, even the strongest person begins to fade. There is something far more exhausting than physical labor. It's waking up without knowing why you're doing any of it. You get out of bed, you go to work, you complete your responsibilities, you come home, and then you do it all again. Days become weeks, weeks become years, until one morning you realize you've been surviving instead of living. The Stoics believed that every human being was born with a purpose, not necessarily to become famous or wealthy, but to live with intention. Marcus Aurelius asked himself every morning, what is the work of a human being? His answer was never about status. It was about character. Purpose isn't something you eventually find. It's something you build through your daily choices. Without purpose, the mind begins to drift. Motivation fades. Confidence weakens. Even your posture changes, because the body often follows where the mind has already gone. Have you noticed how people with a clear purpose often seem more alive? Their faces carry energy. Their voices carry conviction. Not because life is easier for them, because every day has meaning, and meaning gives life its strength. Ask yourself, if someone watched your life for 1 week, would they know what truly matters to you? Or would every day look exactly the same? Purpose doesn't remove hardship. It gives hardship a reason. The Stoics never believed that the body should be worshipped, but they also believed it should never be neglected. Your body is the home of your character, the instrument through which your mind meets the world. Yet today, many people treat it as an afterthought. Hours of sitting, very little movement, processed food, poor sleep, endless stimulation. Then they wonder why they feel older than they really are. Movement isn't just exercise. It's a reminder that you're alive. Even a simple walk can calm the mind, restore your breathing, relax your face, and remind your nervous system that life isn't always an emergency. Epictetus believed discipline begins with small actions, not dramatic transformations. Small promises, kept consistently. Drink more water. Walk every day. Stand taller. Breathe deeper. Go outside. See the morning light. Simple habits, repeated daily, eventually become extraordinary results. People often search for expensive solutions, but ignore the basic foundations that have always mattered. Your body responds to how you treat it every single day. Perhaps the quietest habit of all is forgetting how much you already have. The human mind quickly adapts. Yesterday's dream becomes today's expectation, and tomorrow always promises something more. A bigger house, more money, more success, more recognition. But peace keeps moving further away. The Stoics practiced gratitude, not because life was perfect, but because gratitude changes the person experiencing life. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to appreciate ordinary things: a conversation, fresh air, food on the table, another sunrise, because one day those ordinary moments become extraordinary memories. Imagine ending each day by asking yourself, One simple question. What went right today? Not, what went wrong? That single habit begins retraining your mind. Instead of searching for what's missing, you begin noticing what has always been there, and something remarkable happens. Your face softens, your breathing slows, your smile becomes genuine, not because life changed, because you did. Gratitude may not erase your wrinkles, but it changes the expression that surrounds them. And sometimes, that's even more beautiful. If you've listened this far, you've probably realized something. None of these habits appear overnight. They grow quietly, one choice at a time, one thought at a time, one ordinary day at a time. And the same is true for transformation. You don't become a calmer man in one morning. You don't become more confident in one conversation. You become that person through small decisions, repeated consistently. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised that a disciplined mind could face any life. Your appearance is only the reflection. Your character is the source. Take care of the source, and the reflection will eventually change. Before you leave, I'd like to ask you one final question. Out of these 10 habits, which one will you leave behind? Starting today, write it in the comments below. Not for me, for yourself, because the moment you name the habit, you've already taken the first step toward changing it. If this video gave you a new perspective, please consider liking it, share it with someone who may need this reminder. And if you're committed to building a calmer mind, stronger character, and a life guided by timeless Stoic wisdom, subscribe to QMLG Stoic. Every week, we explore the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and other great Stoic thinkers to help you become the strongest version of yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, protect your peace, strengthen your character, master yourself before trying to master the world. This is QMLG Stoic. Live wisely.